Welcome to the Religious Studies Podcast, the show that breaks down complex ideas in theology and philosophy. Today, we're tackling a giant, Immanuel Kant. Now, here's a guy who was the ultimate champion of reason, but he was also obsessed with making a logical case for God. How on earth does that work? Well, that's what we're digging into today. So, Immanuel Kant is, without a doubt, the central figure in modern philosophy. He was a titan of the Enlightenment who put the power of human reason up on a pedestal. But here is the paradox, the thing that has fascinated scholars for centuries. This same champion of reason spent an incredible amount of his brainpower trying to carve out a safe, logical space for religious faith. So what was he really up to? Was he trying to gut religion from the inside out, or was he actually trying to save it? To figure this out, we're going to follow his thinking step by step. First, we'll look at the crisis that sparked his entire project in the first place. Then, we'll dive into his revolutionary two-world solution. After that, we'll see exactly how he applied this to religion, get into the weeds of the debate over whether he was a friend or foe to faith, and finally, we'll try to get a handle on his massive, lasting legacy. Okay, so to really get Kant, you have to understand the intellectual world he was born into. It was a time of crisis. You see, the Enlightenment was just buzzing with optimism. Thanks to incredible new science from people like Isaac Newton, a lot of thinkers felt like human reason could solve any problem. But this created a huge dilemma. If the universe is just this giant, predictable, clockwork machine, what does that mean for us? Where's the room for free will, for morality, or for God? All of a sudden, it looks like reason was actually kicking the legs out from under the very things it was supposed to support. Kant's answer to this problem was so radical, so world-changing, that it's still called his Copernican revolution in philosophy. Instead of trying to find God inside the world of science, he basically said that science doesn't even describe the whole picture, not even close. At the heart of his big idea is something called transcendental idealism. Okay. Stay with me here. The easiest way to think about it is that our minds aren't just empty cameras passively recording the world. Nope. He said they're more like projectors that actively shape everything we experience. It's like we're all born wearing a pair of glasses, lenses like space, time, and causality that structure reality for us. Because of this, we can only ever know the world as it appears to us through those lenses. He called this the phenomenal world. But the world as it really is, in and of itself, the noumenal world, well, that's something we can never, ever scientifically know. And this is how he solved the Enlightenment's dilemma. He created two separate realms. On one side, you've got the phenomenal world. This is the world of science. It's orderly, it's predictable, it's everything we can actually know. But on the other side, there's the noumenal world, reality as it truly is. And this, he argued, is where things like God, freedom, and the soul belong. We can't prove they exist with scientific reason, but we can and must have faith in them for morality to make any sense. This all comes together in his most famous line on the subject. I had to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith. Just think about how profound that is. He wasn't trying to destroy science. He was drawing a boundary line. He was saying, this is how far scientific knowledge can go and no further, effectively protecting faith from ever being disproven by it. So with this whole framework in place, Kant turned his razor-sharp mind directly to Christianity in his 1793 book, which translates to Religion Within the Boundaries of Mere Reason. And he came up with this really powerful metaphor. He said that historical faiths, with all their specific stories, rituals, and dogmas, are just the clothing. The real naked truth underneath all of them is a universal, rational religion based entirely on morality. His whole project was to strip away all that cultural clothing to reveal the rational core that everyone could agree on. He starts by completely rationalizing the doctrine of original sin. For Kant, evil isn't some supernatural stain we inherit from Adam and Eve. No, he calls it radical evil, and he says it's a fundamental, freely chosen tendency inside all of us to put our own self-interest and desires ahead of our moral duty. And here's the fascinating part. He says its main source is society itself. We look at others, we compare ourselves, and out of fear of being seen as less than or being despised, all these destructive passions like envy and greed bubble up. So if evil is basically a social problem, Kant argued the solution had to be social too. He imagined something he called an ethical community, which is basically his rational version of a church. But instead of being united by some ancient text or divine revelation, people would be united by a shared commitment to virtue, to helping each other fight against their own worst impulses. And he just systematically reinterprets one core concept after another. Faith, that's no longer about believing specific doctrines. It's about a firm commitment to living by the moral law. Grace, that's not a supernatural gift from God. It's the inner strength you gain from consistently choosing your duty. And salvation, forget about a divine rescue. It's the lifelong personal project of cultivating a good will. He basically transforms religion into a powerful framework for morality. Now, as you can probably imagine, this radical reinterpretation of religion kicked off a firestorm of debate. A debate that is, honestly, still raging today. Was Kant trying to save faith, or was he just explaining it away? And this is not just some dusty old historical argument. I mean, look at this. This source is from just a little while ago. Scholars are still fiercely debating the true nature of Kant's project. The central question is still on the table. What was his ultimate goal? The debate essentially splits right down the middle into two main camps. On one side, you have critics who argue Kant is a foe of faith. They say, look, by limiting our knowledge of God, he's basically just promoting agnosticism. By reducing religion to morality, he guts it of all its divine power. But on the other side, you have his defenders. They argue that his real target was never faith itself, it was superstition. They see him as making religion compatible with modern science and giving it this secure, universal foundation in morality that no one could argue with. And this isn't just an abstract academic fight. One scholar points to this fascinating modern example in Brazil, where a conservative political movement recently attacked Kant by name, calling him a radical anti-Christian. It just goes to show you how these 200-year-old ideas are still very much alive and kicking in our political world today. All right, so let's step back for a second. When you put it all together, what is the lasting impact of Kant's monumental, world-changing project? So what should you really take away from all this? Well, first, Kant built a firewall between science and faith to protect them from each other. Science gets the world of appearances. Faith gets the unknowable world of ultimate reality. Second, he tried to shift the entire foundation of religion away from historical texts and miracles and onto a universal, rational morality that every single person could access. This basically makes religious belief a practical necessity for living a moral life. But as we've seen, this whole effort left a permanent question mark hanging over his legacy. Was he the ultimate defender of faith, or its most sophisticated opponent? And that leaves us with a question for our own time, doesn't it? Kant's solution was to make religion a private matter of moral reason. But is that how faith really functions today? Is it just a personal moral compass, or is it a set of public truth claims about the nature of reality? It seems Kant's 18th century problem is still very much our own. And that's our explainer on Kant's philosophy of religion. If this helps you understand this complex topic, please follow our podcast and give us a 5-star rating. It really helps us reach even more curious minds. Thanks for listening.